Hey, what's up guys? Brandon Lee with Virtualization How To. I hope everyone is doing well. I have been somewhat of a latecomer to the Wi-Fi 6 party, partly because of the supply chain issues. But with supply chain issues easing just a bit, I was able to get my hands on a couple of the Unifi U6-LR access points. So I'm going to show you guys the unboxing of the access point in this video, as well as how to adopt the U6-LR into the Unifi network controller, some of the considerations that you might want to make there, as well as a couple of configuration changes that I'm going to make with my access points. So stick around, let's dive right in. Okay, so we have the Unifi U6-LR. So the long-range Wi-Fi 6 access point from Unifi. These have long been out of stock. I've noticed recently that there are many places that have newly available stock. So hopefully that means the supply chain issues are easing at least. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you guys see the unboxing of this Wi-Fi 6 long-range unit. Just received this in today. So take the plastic wrapping off. And we've got the tightly sealed box. Okay. So, wow, very beefy unit. I know I'm used to the standard Unifi access points, the Pro units for Wi-Fi 5. And this Wi-Fi 6 unit is much beefier, much heavier. And I believe the depth looks to be quite a bit more than the other units that I have in place. So I've got the AP itself, and it looks like we've got the mount. So the standard Unifi mount for the Wi-Fi access points with various hole patterns, and the other part of the mount. So shrink wrapped, the other part of the mount. And we've got our box of goodies. Got screws. Let's see if we can get this out. Dumping everything. So we've got mounting hardware, various screws, sheetrock anchors. Very nice. One thing I really like about the Unifi equipment is the way everything is packaged is really nice. Really like that. And got just the quick informational card. So again, we've got the Unifi access point unboxing. Hopefully you've enjoyed this part of this segment that we've taken a look at the access point physically. It is a very beefy unit. I'm really liking the unit. I think if bulk and depth are any indication, hopefully this will work really well. The adoption process with the Unifi network controller is usually very straightforward. In many environments, the Unifi network controller as well as the access points are on the same layer 2 network segment. In other words, they're on the same subnet. However, in my home lab environment, for a bit of extra security as well as some separation of management, I have my Unifi network controller on a separate VLAN as opposed to the IP addresses of the access points themselves. I need to do a little bit of extra work to adopt this access point into my Unifi network controller. In addition to segmenting the management traffic of my Unifi network controller as well as the access points, It allows me to implement firewall rules for extra security between those two zones. With that being said, if you're doing something similar to myself, you want to make sure that you have firewall rules set up to allow the communication needed for the management. There are several network ports to be aware of when you are establishing firewall rules between your Unifi network controller as well as your Unifi access points. There is the Unifi stun port, which is UDP port 3478. There are the radius ports, which are UDP ports 1812 and 1813. And if you have set up a custom captive portal page with a specific port, you will need to configure that port as well. Let's first look at updating this inform address between our access point and the Unifi network controller. To do that, we need to SSH into our Unifi access point. You need to know which IP address that it has pulled from DHCP so you can SSH into the access point with the default credentials and update this inform address. I have that IP address already found in my network. If you want to learn how to have easy visibility to new network devices that attach to your network, see my video about how to configure ARPWatch. That's what I use, and it makes things super simple. So I've SSH'd into my Unifi access point. I'm going to log in with the default credentials of UBNT. As you can see, we're at the command line. Inform address is updated with the command set-inform the HTTP : the IP address : 8080 / inform. Now we have the message adoption request has been sent to our Unifi network controller. The next step is to log into our controller, and we should see the access point pending adoption. Now that we've configured the inform address, I've logged into my Unifi network controller, and we do see the access point is there for adoption. So that looks good. What we need to do now is simply click the click to adopt hyperlink under the status column. And this will launch the dialog box to adopt the device. So I'm going to click adopt device. After we click the adopt device button, we can see the status change to adopting. Now that the wireless access point has been adopted in the Unifi network controller, you want to check and make sure that you have applied all of the firmware updates. Access points that you unbox will have firmware updates ready to apply, and that will automatically display in your Unifi network controller. As you can see, I have firmware status of click to update. So that tells us that there is an update available. So I'm going to click the click to update. As you can see, we get the notification, are you sure you want to update? So we want to update from 5.6 to all the way to 6.0.2. I'm going to click the confirm button, and the upgrade process of the firmware begins. This will take several minutes depending on the access point. Step away for about 10 minutes, allow the access point to apply the firmware. It's going to reboot a couple of times, and it should come back online in a ready state. The access point has applied the new firmware and it has rebooted. Now I'm going to apply a couple of configuration changes. This includes changing the default name of the access point. I also like to, in this very small environment that I'm running at my house, I like to manually set the 2.4 gigahertz channel as well as the transmit power. Doing that in my environment has worked out best. So I'm going to set the channel to channel 1, and then I'm also going to set the 2.4 gigahertz transmit power to low. Well, there you have it. The unboxing, the adoption, and configuration of a Unifi U6-LR access point. Hopefully you've enjoyed this overview video, especially if you're running your access points in a different subnet than your Unifi network controller, how you configure that inform address, as well as some of those port considerations if you have firewall rules separating those subnets or zones. Well, I'm Brandon Lee. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys soon.